being that you've written so many things, across a few different genres, but in the past, like a few years or so, you've had some of your scripts go through and get in the process and then become these things that now air regularly every sort of holiday season. I'm curious, what got you into writing in the Christmas genre?
What's interesting is my path to the Christmas genre actually begins with my work in independent horror movies, because I had been writing horror films, which is sort of the genre that I come from, and I had a few films that I had made on micro budget or had written for micro budget that ended up being critically well received. And a friend of mine who also had come from the indie genre sphere ended up working as a producer on a lot of these TV holiday films. And one season, they were in the process of lining up a slate of movies and realized they were short one film. And because they had already sort of allotted their time and budget, they realized that to get the other movie that they needed made done, they had to do it kind of in a very shrewd fashion, but they still wanted to make a good movie. And he said, I have this friend who knows how to write a tight script and can do it for, a reasonable amount of money. And they were like, sure, let's see if he can do it. And they called and they were like, were you interested in writing a Christmas movie? And to be honest, until I received that call, it was something I had never thought about. But I kind of loved the idea. I watch these movies with friends and family every season. It is kind of like part of the fabric of American TV. So it was like, yeah, that's cool. Like, I had never thought of myself as someone who might write one, but I liked the challenge. And like, for me as a storyteller, it's all about just finding the story and going from there. And so I did. And then next thing you know, I've written 2, 3, 4, and it's just kind of part of my life now.
Excellent. So and you're still writing the other genres too, you're very busy. And so when you're writing these Christmas things, being it is such a part of the fabric of American television, and just part of the season in general, is it a different process for you as a storyteller to tell a Christmas story as opposed to any other genre?
No, I wouldn't say that I start or write my movies differently, because it's always contingent on character, and characters never know what movie they're in, because that's how life is. You don't know when you wake up what kind of day it's going to be. And I always say that, a story could begin where we all get in the car to go to Grandma's for Christmas Day, but maybe the car breaks down and you have to use the phone at that creepy old castle, or you make it to Grandma's and Christmas, magic happens. But you don't know until you're out in the world. So I create the characters first, and then once they're in the situation, I kind of just decide how they would react to the world they're living in. So for me, in my process, it's all about characters and the people who inhabit that world. So I really don't write my scripts any different one way or the other. It's just the kind of situations they react to.
Interesting. So even like structure-wise, when these things typically will have commercial breaks in them that has to be allotted for, that's just not a factor at all, and that's just something that, you have the script and you tell the story, and it is what it is?
Well, of course, when you're writing for TV, specifically a TV movie, there is an 8-act structure. So I do have that in mind as opposed to just writing a straight feature film script. But I think that that's more mechanics and less about story. I mean, obviously, I think when you watch these movies, certain beats are achieved by certain points. Like, by the half-hour mark, they at least need to have met their romantic counterpart or whatever. But the truth is, every movie structurally has beats. Whether it's a feature film, whether it's a whether it's a Marvel movie, whether it's a horror movie, whether it's a Christmas movie on Hallmark, there are certain things that need to be achieved to keep the plot moving along. So, I think it's just all about the structure of what you're doing. But it still is important to know the world and the characters that inhabit it.
Awesome. So Christmas in Vermont, which I actually revisited last night, I still had the DVR from on my DVR from 2016, the original airing and premiere. So all the commercials on it were just in that right moment of like not quite old enough to be nostalgic, but still enough to like sort of trigger that memory that maybe I should buy that thing. So it worked out perfectly. on a project like that, which, was directed by Fred Olen Ray of Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers fame, another horror alumni who is now made a series of Christmas films. I also liked the Christmas Prince poster he had in the background by the movie theater, which he also did. So revisiting it last night and seeing a film like Christmas in Vermont, which has, Chevy Chase, Morgan Fairchild in it. When you're watching the final product of something like that and knowing that it's going to be a part now, until the end of time, just airing every holiday season. Is it different, like watching something you've written come back to you in the final product like that?
In the way that from the page one to the just watching it air on TV, or
right, yeah. In terms of like because these things they come no matter what, they're going to be airing every single year, and like seeing the finished final result for it, is it a different feeling at all knowing that it is part of this holiday tradition thing, as opposed to basically anything else like other genres?
Well, it's wild, because these movies do live on television forever, as you said. When I wrote the first one, I remember a producer said to me, and with no sense of irony, and he wasn't joking, he said, "Just so you know, this movie is going to play on television years after you're dead." And that's kind of cool to think about, that there is this kind of whole celebration of Christmas and these films that keeps them going year in and year out, and there's just such a community around them. I really just can't believe just the amount of love these movies get, and it's touching, honestly. It feels great to know that every year something that I created is on television and is being discovered by new people and is being embraced by new people. The wonderful thing about the social media era is like now every Christmas I'll get comments from people who are finding these for the first time, or people who are tuning in for the third year in a row or the fifth year in a row. And I think that what makes it special for me as a writer is that Christmas, not to sound like one of the movies, but Christmas is all about traditions, and to know that something that you created becomes part of someone else's tradition, that's really cool. Like, as an artist, to know that you've affected someone in that way. So that to me is kind of the great impact of it for me. Like every year, it's just like a very humbling reminder of what our work created.
Awesome. So with Christmas in Vermont and being, your appreciation of so many things, beyond Christmas and in these different genres, is there any like hidden references to anything outside of Christmas that you may have like snuck into it that you're particularly proud of that wound up in the final product?
I'm trying to think. I do know that Dana, the character played by Meredith Thomas, actually is, her last name is Keller, and that is a reference to a indie horror film I wrote called The Sins of Dracula, where there is a producer in that film named Roger Keller, who's sort of like a Roger Corman kind of composite sort of character. So I did a little nod to my own work in that. I always layer things into these movies. Sometimes I don't always remember them, but that's the one that always stands out to me because it was a personal connection.
Nice. And then so you're basically also insinuating then that both those movies exist in the same universe. So when someone has their Christmas tradition, now they can have a tradition another time of the year when celebrating Dracula.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Sweet. Well, once again, thank you so much for this. And in addition to A Christmas for Vermont about to play at the end of this episode, what else should people be checking out from you this holiday season?
Well, A Christmas Reunion, which is another Christmas movie that I wrote that stars Denise Richards and Patrick Muldoon, is airing regularly on Lifetime and Ion, so check your local listings. And a movie that I created the story for that was written by Topher Payne called Broadcasting Christmas with Melissa Joan Hart and Dean Cain should be airing on Hallmark as well. So just
excellent.
And maybe next Christmas I will have some new surprises.
Hey, and of course, too, the best thing to put in anyone's stockings this year would be Vegas in Space, correct?
I absolutely 100% agree. The Troma classic Vegas in Space, a drag queen romp into outer space. Yes, please, 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 if you're out there looking to discover a slice of midnight cinema, that is my recommended film.
Also makes a great Kwanzaa gift on the night of Kujichakulia, Self-Determination, on the 26th. So I fully support any sort of Vegas and space tidings. So, all right. And then where can people find you online?
The best place for people to find me is my Twitter, which is at Michael Varrati. That's V as in Victor, Arrati. I also host a podcast called Dead for Filth, which is about the intersection of queer identity and horror. And you can follow us at Twitter at Dead for Filth.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Michael. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you.